policy of standardized testing continues to be a hot debate in our nation as well as our district. Today, standardized tests are used not only at the elementary school level, but also at the high school level and for college entry. As you can see by the book Divergent, it says that they will have to take an aptitude test, and it will decide on a faction. It will decide the rest of my life. This book Divergent is very popular with middle school students who have to make a decision. They have to perform well on these standardized tests in order to decide their fate, where they're going to be going to high school, where they may get into selective enrollment schools in Chicago public schools. Will they be abandoned, or will they get to go to these selective enrollment schools? Like this one here, we have Walter Payton College Prep. You have to be top 1%. Or Whitney Young coming next. Whitney Young Magnet School. Can't get in there unless you have top scores. And of course, trying to get into the University of Illinois or trying to get into the University of Wisconsin is very difficult without excelling on standardized tests. Harvard, near impossible. The history of standardized tests have been a part of the American education system since the mid-1800s. Their use skyrocketed after 2002's No Child Left Behind. And of course, the United States slipped from 18th in the world in math to 31st place in 2009, with a similar decline in science and no change in reading. Some of these failures have been placed on rising poverty levels, tenure policies, and of course standardized testing has been one of the avenues people have used to try to track this. The way I've been exposed to this policy, it seemed that standardized testing is produced by large corporations, sold to the state and districts or nationally in the case of NWEA and PARCC. As we move to the Common Core standards, we see a more aligned curriculum as well as a test that measures these standards. The state and district levels mandate that public school administer these tests and in turn get evaluated and given funds based on their research. We are now moving into PARCC, Partnership for Assessment. Partnership, I'm not sure about that. As you can see here, we have an IBM, First Automated Grader. That grader obviously had to be sold to education systems and schools, IBM being another very large corporation. Interesting ties. We can also look in 1983, Ronald Reagan began his speech with, "Our nation is at risk," the report boldly declared in its first sentence. And over the next 36 pages, this took the American schools and called it a host of much-needed reforms. When the report came out, it catapulted the issue of education into the national agenda, says Mary Hatwood Futrell. She was the dean of George Washington University at the time. And in the next 30 years since this scathing indictment, most schools have taken drastic steps to meet the report's challenge. They've also adopted academic standards, and 45 states, including the District of Columbia, have adopted Common Core. This is all necessary, and we have skills for success in college careers. But according to the United States Department of Education, the average teacher in today's dollars earned $46,700 in 1983 and $54,900 in 2010. While a nation at risk recommended professionally competitive salaries for teachers, this has not become a finite reality. Indeed, almost 20% of new public school teachers leave after the first year, and almost half leave after the next 5 years. Now you can see in this cartoon, they're making fun of, is this a multiple choice or fill in the blank question? Are we really giving our kids critical thinking skills in the public school system? No Child Left Behind stated we should not leave a child behind. Every child will be at grade level by 2014. Is this the case? Now schools are being held accountable for this, and it's through the state ISAT and national NWEA and PARCC testing that they measure this standard. We are taking tests online a couple times a year. This is the last year of ISAT testing in Chicago. But now this Waiting for Superman documentary comes out and shows that we have a whole lot of other host of issues in the Chicago public school system, and we're waiting for someone to save it. It's not the testing, it's not the Common Core. It has to deal with poverty. It has to deal with things that are going on in our schools that we need funding, but we're getting cut. And these poor public school students are being evaluated on their NWEA test for promotion, being evaluated in 7th grade to be able to make decisions. They're being asked the same things as those who have money and who have parents that can give them things. So this ISAT and this NWEA, is this a fair selection? Everybody has to take the same exam? Please climb up that tree, it says. I wonder if the fish can do that. So, what are our solutions? What are students learning and how do we teach them? How can we make learning happen in our classrooms? And how can we make learning fun? That's my question as a teacher. I don't buy into all of this fix education improving schools. Let's get charter schools, teacher merit pay, test children till they're numb and punish teachers. This is all negative. How do we empower them? How do we make people want to do good? Diane Ravitch has a great book, The Life and Death of the American School System. And in this book, she talks about charter schools not outperforming their counterparts in public schools. In fact, charter schools achieve apparently less dazzling results because they don't take in disciplinary problems and English language learners, children with special needs. Ravitch also looks at the way to enhance their curriculum is to rescue the curriculum from the culture wars, set rigorous statewide or national standards for content, and improve the condition in which teachers work and students learn, rather than squabbling over how school systems should be organized, managed, and controlled. She says millions of minds, after all, are a terrible thing to waste. I agree. I also think standardized testing isn't fun. I've sat in and made lots of kids take standardized tests, and unfortunately, I see them leave and they feel sad. I don't think I want to make them feel sad anymore. I want kids to feel like they're more than a test score. And there are parent groups out there that are fighting against the ISAT tests and are opting out of taking the tests. In fact, we have one parent at our school who's heading up the cause, more than a score, and has spoken to media and government officials about the opt out for ISAT next week, which happened. These opt out guidelines are on this website, More Than a Score, and as you can see, they are against standardized testing in Chicago public schools. There's a website that gives teachers, parents, and students some ideas. CPS claims to reduce testing. Unfortunately, our teacher evaluations are tied to them, and that's frustrating for some teachers who have to fight against kids coming in hungry or tired. I don't know how to fix that, but I certainly do know how to empower students. So some are opting out, some parents are opting out because they don't want their children to be more than a score, and they do want learning to continue. So they've commented on it's time to ice the ISAT, and this has been a big debate in Chicago public schools recently. So this website, More Than a Score, has a ton of information, and as you can see, parents are starting to have a voice against the government and big companies. We have to stay united, and we have to continue to raise our hands. As you can see here, we have an overview of the local state assessments. K to 2 is being tested quite frequently. In fact, you can see there's about 6 testing times and windows. Unfortunately, we also see here that the MAP and ISAT tests for our students, that is in a big debate right now, happens during this time period. And we also have algebra tests and gifted and selective enrollment exams going on for our middle schoolers. There's a lot of testing going on. We also see the NAEP and the NWEA test windows. We just administered NAEP in our school, and it was the same students who just finished NWEA. At Goethe Elementary, a Chicago public school, we are in the thick of this policy change. We've always prided ourselves at being a school that nurtures the soul of the child. We're in Logan Square neighborhood, and we care, and our teachers work hard. We have students from a variety of cultures, socioeconomic status, and family backgrounds. Most of our students speak a second language at home, are on free and reduced lunches, and may be as far as 2 grade levels behind in reading and math. We do our best to help the student while at school, but the home life and parent involvement sometimes hold them back. Some years we meet our AYP, and others we fall short. Our teachers and curriculum being equal from year to year, what is it that affects this decline or ascent? We've spent a few years taking ISAT and NWEA MAP tests and have evaluated the data every way we can. We have a district statistician, Kiljune, that comes in to help us evaluate the data and assess the individual child in each grade. Over time, we can see how a student roller coaster rides the percentile ranks. But there appears to not be a common thread behind the inclines and declines. Even Kiljune has trouble putting his finger on the few key commonalities we may be able to have control over. He truly believes there are factors outside of the school's control that may be impacting some of the declines. Why is it that 6th graders do very well and then 7th and 8th graders have a rough time meeting their goals? The only common thing is hormones? We have the same teachers at 7th and 8th grade that have had great growth from motivated students. Do we struggle with the unmotivated? Do we struggle giving kids a reason to test well if they have already lost hope? Many of these same students are accepting their fate at their neighborhood schools and don't believe college is in their future. Kiljun, a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-Madison in statistics, is a believer in the stats, but also believes there's a story the stats cannot tell. I wish Springfield and Washington would believe him. Evaluation of this educational policy, I will look at the factors influencing students who take the test through a survey of the 8th graders. My goal is to evaluate the untold story behind standardized testing. This may not only help the students understand what they need to do to prepare, but it will also help our administration of the test. These 8th graders are the students who have taken the NWEA test for 4 years in a row. They have provided valuable, honest feedback about the winter test they took. I've also met with a sampling of them to discuss why they are feeling unmotivated by the test, or why they are not giving it their all. I have also met with my principal, Barbara Kargas, to discuss the students' comments. We are hoping to use this data to help control the testing environment a bit and to give students a voice to how and when they want to test. I also spoke with Ms. Kargas about how we as a school can help build confidence and stamina, which seem to be the commonalities outside the curriculum and content. These two areas can dramatically affect student outcomes on standardized tests. We also discussed the testing policies about administration of the test, like test duration, breaks, support, and allowances for sick days. She discussed all of our plans with her boss, John Price, and he agreed we could administer the test in a way we see fit to best help our students. So as this policy of standardized testing gets more heated with the ISAT tests and NWEA to follow at the end of April, Ms. Kargas and I came to our determination that we need to operate the best way we can for our students. Testing is not going away, and we are mandated by state and federal laws that require that we test all kids. So it is our responsibility to help each one of our students through this reality. They can master test-taking skills that are essential for life in high school and beyond. We will be helping not only the child that wants to take the MCATs or bar exam later, but also in the future, a future fireman, police officer, or mechanic that needs to take exams for his or her occupation. There was a letter recently sent out to all principals from the State Superintendent of Education and Mrs. Bird Bennett from CPS saying that there are requirements. We are required to give the test. The ISAT measures the achievement of students. And the local levels, the ISATs help us to meet benchmarks. The students need to meet these benchmarks in order for us to gauge where they're at. How do they expect us to use it, though? Obviously, the policymakers think that we need to keep our children on track to compete. Ms. Kargas stated that she believes every student can succeed and meet his or her goals, and that we can help support that. She does not get caught up in fighting the policies that are mandated. She builds confidence in the teachers and students that we can rock the ISAT. She has buddies in younger grades to help cheer on the older kids. We had a pep rally on Friday to encourage kids to get sleep and eat right before Tuesday's testing began. We celebrate our wins and really take a team approach when looking at our losses. We encourage the kids to be themselves and to go after what their dreams are. In conclusion, the Common Core war is going to continue. The debate will continue. And with our administration putting together all sorts of different ways that they are going to help fix the education system, Randy Weingarten obviously does not believe the Common Core is going to fix all our problems, and neither do a lot of us. So we need to look deeply at our education system before our children look something like this. Robots. We're all going to go crazy if this continues. And in the following video that I've given, The Blaze, they talk about what's going on with Microsoft and Bill Gates and all the top unified people that have put this core together, what it means for us as educators and for us as an education system.
ComCore is extraordinarily important. You're not going to hear about this on MSNBC because they agree with it. Quite honestly, you're not going to hear about it on Fox because the big man, what's his name, Rupert Murdoch, he helped build it. Trouble. One of the big contentions they made was, oh, come on, this is just a standard set of, guidelines, really. Every child should know these things before graduating. It's not curriculum or anything like that. Okay. Well, if that's the logic Common Core is teaching, then we're in bigger trouble as a nation than I thought. I want you to think about this. This is just a guideline. This is not curriculum. This is just a test to see what they've learned. If you believe that, I want you to come to Man in the Moon. It's right there. It's Independence Week in Salt Lake City. It's our 4th of July Independence thing. It's going to be great. And in the end, I will sell you the actual moon. These are not harmless standards, not little happy tips for teachers to check out once in a while. I know the unions have done a very good job at eradicating critical thinking, but let's try using a little common sense and the words of the founding of those funding Common Core. For instance, Bill Gates, in his own words, watch. Defining common standards is just the starting point. We'll only know if this effort has succeeded when the curriculum and tests are aligned to these standards. When the tests are aligned to the common standards, the curriculum will line up as well. So what you're saying is technically it's not a curriculum, but it ends up defining the curriculum because of the evaluation of teacher schools, districts, and states. In large part, it'll all be determined on how students perform on those Common Core standardized tests. So the curriculum then, teachers will have to focus on getting those students to pass those tests, so they'll have to develop the curriculum. See how it works? Remember, it's not a curriculum. No, in fact, in one of the founding funders, in his own words, it's just a starting point. End quote. Saying Common Core is not a curriculum is like saying, of course we're building roads, but we're not going to put cars on it. Why are you building a road? You don't build a test unless you plan on teaching the answers.